Now, Penn State men's hockey just came up short in its first ever Frozen Four appearance, but they're certainly going to be back, especially with the core of players that they have returning for next season.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
That is right. You are locked on to some Penn State men's hockey, and thank you so much for checking out this edition of Locked On Nittany Lions. My name is Zach Seyko, and I'm your host of the show, joined once again by the Penn State men's color commentator for the radio broadcast. That is Eric Ohlson over on the other side, as we're going to recap this Frozen Four appearance for Penn State, coming up short against Boston University, ultimately lost to Western Michigan, but what a heck of a season. Penn State is losing Arsenii Sergeev. How can I say that they're going to be a contender for next season if they're losing the starting goalie that helped get them there? Well, they might have found some reinforcements there in the transfer portal, but Eric, it's really about this core that they are bringing back. It's the recruiting class that they have coming in, this new wave of young talent, plus the talent that started to emerge down the stretch, and why Penn State became the hottest team in all of college hockey leading up to the Frozen Four. It's a bulk of that nucleus that is coming back and will make this team an instant favorite, one of the favorites, a title contender right out of the gate instead of being a dark horse late in the season.
Yeah, there's a lot of excitement because of the young core. And when basically all of your major point scorers are underclassmen, it's huge. You know, they're losing some very key guys from this senior class, and you know, there's always holes to fill. You know, it's sports. You never have the same team the next year, and something always is going to look a little bit different. So, you know, they'll lose Mac on defense as their senior captain, who just had an unbelievable year, just ate all kinds of minutes. Great partner for Cade Christensen to learn from as a freshman. So his growth is just going to be immense, I think, going into his sophomore year. And then, you know, Danny Genev, another senior who was one of their leading point guys, and a little bit quiet down the stretch with Lawback and Fink. And so that was a little tough, you know, going into the NCAA tournament, but still just a great year from him. And just a great couple years. So some key guys that'll be gone, but a lot of excitement with what's coming in. Their recruiting class, a lot of guys from the Canadian Hockey League, and a lot of scoring potential. I can tell you that. Pair that with who's returning, and you know, Cerrato, Wiebusch, Demarsko, and you got Law back there, Aiden Fink. You know, again, we're still in the world of the transfer portal, so certainly nothing is guaranteed. Can't say 100% certainly lock it in that, you know, that core is going to stay together, because anything could happen right now, you know. But I feel like
it's a great starting point, though, when four of your top point scorers are at least projected to return. And I can't see a reason they go into the portal, but like you said, never say never.
Yeah, you never know. And you can expect that Cerrato will probably be drafted. He's still draft eligible. So coming up in the NHL entry draft this summer. And, you know, you see what happens. There's a lot of great players coming in. They have made their addition in the transfer portal with a goalie, and, you know, maybe some more additions to come. Who knows? It's kind of in that early process still because of how far into the season they went, you know, the first time playing into April. And I know it was a little bit tough with the portal opening before your season even ends. And now, like, you're preparing for the Frozen Four. And that's something Guy talked a little bit about at his media session, is that, like, you're preparing for your first Frozen Four, and you have all of that going on. And oh, by the way, the portal's open. So you kind of have to do your due diligence in there, because you never know what's going to happen. But they weren't going to make any type of moves or any type of announcements until the season was over, and you start to evaluate. Then you have your closeout meetings with players and all that. But yeah, look, if they keep that core together, geez, I mean, the scoring potential is off the charts. And oh, by the way, Andrew Kuzma didn't play this year. In some conversations with the guys, they think, look, he could be the best player on the team right now. with
Better than Aiden Fink.
Yeah, I mean, Kuzma's a center, and he's a big center with a lot of speed and a lot of skill. Maybe the best shot on the team too, from what we've heard. So there's that potential. He's almost like a new player coming in to the team because he wasn't able to play this year with the medical condition and the surgery that he had. So that's like an infusion into the lineup as well, and key to have another great center down the middle. So you'll have him. Fingers crossed, as long as everything goes well with his health, and he has been skating here in the second half of the season. And then, players coming in. Shane Van Olm, I can tell you there's a lot of excitement around him coming from, I think, the WHL. And yeah, look, you keep that core together. There's a lot of excitement. So, can't wait for that. And it's tough the way it ended, but only one team can be happy at the end of the day.
I'm ready to declare that this team is a contender. Even if there is a little bit of attrition with the transfer portal, I still think with what they have. And then you mentioned the likes of Kuzma. I can't see how this team isn't better positioned because, like I said, they grew up real fast. So to go through that learning curve, but everybody's gonna have a target on this team's back. Let's frame it that way, that nobody's gonna look past Penn State men's hockey going into next season. If we're talking about them as a potential contender now, then certainly the rest of college hockey is going to be on notice. Let's talk about the new goalie briefly, Eric, before we talk about the departure of Arsenii Sergeev in the upcoming segment. His name's Kevin Reidler. Reidler's coming over from Omaha. And this was a guy that was drafted earlier in his college, in his hockey career, I should say. He was relatively young. He was drafted in the 5th round. So potential written all over it, but things didn't work out at Omaha. He appeared in 8 games. So this is someone that is going to be viewed as a potential starter. I think maybe some people will prematurely say that, oh, he's the starter in waiting because Sergeyev's going off to the NHL, the NHL. But don't just automatically assume that Reidler's coming in to be a starter guaranteed. He's going to have to battle for that spot that Sergeyev leaves behind.
Yeah, nothing is guaranteed by any means. They do have a freshman goalie coming in as a recruit from Canada, and now you have Reidler. So he is a draft pick like Sergeyev was, drafted by Ottawa. Small sample size in college hockey this year with Omaha, but the NCHC is a good conference. So we'll see. Having a coach that knows goalies and was a goalie is certainly key. Associate head coach Giuliano Pagliaro was a goalie in college hockey, and I know he was a big part in the process of identifying Sergeyev as a guy to bring in. So the fact that they're bringing in another goalie now from the portal, you can be sure that they have done their due diligence on Reidler, and they would not bring a guy in just to bring a guy in. So that has to be good, that they feel confident in him joining the team. And every time there is a portal addition, Guy always talks about how their priorities are culture first. They are never going to be a program that brings in a guy who could be the best player in the world, but if he's not going to fit the locker room, they don't want it, because they care so much about the culture in their room and establishing that and maintaining that and cultivating that, because that culture is the reason why they made this run in the second half of the year, why they got to the Frozen Four. There's a lot of teams where you're 0-8-1 in your conference, it's just going to fall apart. But it didn't fall apart because they had belief in their room. They were playing for each other. They believed in their system, and they stuck with it. So you're never going to bring a guy in that disrupts what they've built. They loved RC. So many times Guy would talk about how the players will run through a brick wall for RC. Just a great, lovable guy, fun to talk to, fun to be around. And, you hope Kevin Reidler can be a great locker room guy. So again, small sample size, so we'll see what happens. But certainly nothing is anointed. No starting position has been anointed. It's a long way between now and the beginning of October.
I guess that could be one concern. So let's address it. there's going to be a new goalie one way or another, whether it is Reidler, whether it's the incoming freshman, but Sergeev is leaving behind, a large gap with moving on to Calgary as he was drafted by them and now is going to sign with them. Talk about the impact that Sergeev had and what it means for Penn State now that he's moving on. Coming up next here after the break. And today's show is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena, and with Game Time, you can be part of it without the issue of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. Here's why you'll love using Game Time. You'll have last-minute deals. You can save up to 60%, as I've mentioned, off buying last-minute tickets for not only sporting events, but concerts, comedy, theater, you name it. And the all-in pricing means there's no surprise fees at checkout. So what you see is what you pay for. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account. Use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. Again, that is LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Sergeev is set to sign with the Calgary Flames, and he is going to be leaving Penn State men's hockey. And this is, the allure of the NHL, right? Turning pro. I guess it's a little different in college football where there's so much NIL money to be had that you can bring anybody and everybody back with the right amount of money, but it still is more of a traditional route in college hockey. And when you have that chance to turn pro, you take it. So I don't blame Sergeev for his decision. Did he have eligibility? Could he have come back? Yes. Yes, he could have, but he's ultimately going to move on. Eric, you already started to describe it, what Sergeev meant to this team, how he helped wield them at points in time to a Frozen Four appearance. Those are going to be huge ice skates to fill now that he is actually moving on and leaving early in this case. But Penn State was ready. They went to the portal, so they're prepared for this. Yeah,
and couldn't be any happier for Arsenii. And anytime a player gets to sign a pro deal, it's a major accomplishment, and it's a major accomplishment for the program too, because again, Penn State is still so new. They don't have that pedigree yet of, hey, come to Penn State because we'll get you to the NHL. They've had some players that have made NHL debuts, and that they're building to that. But anytime you have a guy from your program that is able to sign that pro deal, it's huge. And I know, our Arsenie's fired up, of course, to sign with Calgary. His deal will begin next season, so is his 2-year entry-level contract. And again, you couldn't be happier for him. I know the team certainly would be, and great photos today of him signing his contract with Guy right next to him, and both got the toothless grin going because they're both missing a tooth. So just a lot of fun, and so happy to see him have that opportunity. And again, it's just great for the program because now they can start growing that list of guys who have played at Penn State and now will go on to the NHL. And you hope the best for him, that he gets that crack with Calgary. And yeah, big shoes to fill. But Kevin Reidler coming in as a big guy, 6'6", 205. RC, I think, was 6'5", just over 200 as well. So big goalies are all the rage now in the sport. You kind of saw that transition maybe 6 or 7, 8 years ago in the NHL, starting with a guy like Andrei Vasilevsky and then Ben Bishop. These big 6'5", 6'7" goaltenders. It's tough to score on those guys. And for Boston University, Mikhail Yegorov, he was 6'5" too. And you could see they just take up so much of the net. It can be hard to score. And Arsenii was so good this year. Program record 4 shutouts. Will end up setting program records in save percentage and goals against average for a single season. Just unreal numbers. And they are not in the Frozen Four without him by any means. It took so much of a collective effort, everything coming together, the offense, the defense, the goaltending, the special teams. It all has to click at the right time for you to make that type of run, because no one gets to the Frozen Four on a fluke. Penn State certainly didn't get there on a fluke. Neither did Boston or Denver or Western Michigan. They were one of the best teams left standing. And a lot of that was because of the job Arsenii Sergeev did.
What this will do is help recruiting at a very minimum. You see a goalie come into Penn State for one season, then immediately, and again, I know that he was drafted by Calgary originally, but they called him up now, gave him an opportunity now. So that's why you're seeing, okay, somebody who hasn't necessarily been proven, but has all the potential in the world in a similar setup. If Sergeev can do it, okay, the idea is that Reidler can do it, or, maybe somebody down the line from, earlier in their college hockey career that's committed to Penn State in this case. So goalie development is on the up and up for Penn State. Finish with this on Sergeev and then talk about the Frozen Four that, if it wasn't for a loose puck, I think Penn State plays a much more competitive game against Boston University, but we'll explain that in a moment. Sergeev is leaving behind, a massive void, I would say, because we talk about, Penn State can put up a lot of goals next season. Penn State's got this returning core of offensive attackers that are just going to be relentless. But if you can't stop the puck from scoring on your end, then what worth is that? Is Penn State going to be able to outscore everybody on any given night? Maybe Reidler comes in and becomes a superstar. So it's kind of a question of what can Sergeev maybe pass over to Reidler, the goaltenders, in a sense that Penn State can be at a national contending type of level.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that comes from certainly the talent of the goalie, but also the coaching staff. Again, having Giuliano Pagliaro on the staff, who is a goalie and can bring that element to the ice, is big. And so we'll see what happens. There's just going to be some changes on defense, changes at forward. And again, like, no team is ever the same year to year. Yeah. So there always is that change, and every locker room has a different feel to it. So we'll see what happens. Again, just an outstanding year from Sergeev, statistically the best ever. Peyton Jones also had a great senior season with Penn State. That was the team that probably could have gotten to the Frozen Four had the pandemic not canceled the tournament that year. So that team never got its chance. They were going to host a Big Ten semifinal at home against Minnesota the week that everything got canceled. So they never had that opportunity to make that run in the NCAA tournament. And that could have been really the stepping stone for the program at the time, because Jones was having a great year. They had the scoring, they had the defense. A lot of what you saw down the stretch this season is what that team had. The difference was this team for Penn State in the second half, record number of wins post-Christmas. They did special things the run they went on, and it got them to a Frozen Four in St. Louis. So, it came up just short, but so much to be proud of. Losing is certainly nothing to be ashamed of, because you got the four best teams left in the country playing in that Frozen Four.
So Penn State gets to the Frozen Four, first ever in school history, and a chance to capitalize on it, but they fall short to the eventual runner-up. I don't know that anybody was getting past Western Michigan, even though we had our confidence in a Denver team, but Western Michigan seemed like this was their year, and it happened accordingly. But Penn State made a couple of mistakes. The puck just wasn't, sliding their way. And ultimately they lose to Boston University. So we're going to recap it, figure out what went wrong, and hindsight's 2020. What could they have changed to get past the Terriers? We'll talk about that next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. Today's show is brought to you by Monarch Money. You ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it is easy to lose track. Now that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just another budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. You'll get surprising insights from Monarch Money. When I started using Monarch for myself, I realized just how much I was spending on groceries or dining out, package deliveries. Now I can budget smarter and save more. You'll get all in one convenience. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track your spending, and even plan long-term goals. And you'll get easy collaboration. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for, get this, 50% off your first year. That is right, 50% off your first year. That is monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. It was a short trip out to St. Louis, unfortunately. Penn State losing to Boston University 3-1. And the play that everybody's going to refer to there, Eric, we're going to have to start with it. We talked so highly of Arsenii Sergeev, as we should have. But as I pointed out in some of our previous get-togethers, is that Sergeev was not going to play perfect hockey every single game, and that at some point the team was going to have to pick up the slack. That was kind of my biggest concern, is that if Sergeev isn't at his best, what can the team do to counter? And that's exactly how it happened from my point of view. Now, granted, the puck, like I said, there were some good shots on goal, but they just weren't going in. Boston seemed to have every answer defensively against Penn State, but it's the deflating. It's not just allowing a goal. It's one where you have the puck, you misplace it, you lose it, whatever have you, and it gives such an easy goal. That's going to be deflating. That's going to be such a momentum swing to the other team. If you allow that to happen against a Boston University team, good luck coming back from that. And that was my concern there, that maybe Penn State doesn't have it here. The second that goal happened, Sergeev, the puck gets loose. It's an easy chip in for the Terriers. And I don't know how much confidence I had going forward from that point, even though granted it was earlier in the game. So what had happened there? Because we talk so highly of Sergeev and he lets up a rookie mistake.
I don't know that I would call it a mistake. It's
Okay.
a tough situation because none of us know really what happened there.
So it wasn't just losing the puck.
No, well, goalies lose the puck all the time. You're making a save, and it was it was a long shot from Capone, I believe, for Boston, that Sergeev made the save on, and it hit him in the chest. So he's down in the butterfly, hits him in the chest, and the puck ends up dropping down into his pads. A lot of times goalies, sometimes you can feel where the puck is, and sometimes you don't know. And this was one where he makes the save, but no Terrier is really immediately around him. So he doesn't get a quick whistle, even though there was no sight of the puck. And, the way it's supposed to go is referees lose sight of the puck, whistle blows, unless no player is around you immediately. And it was honestly the perfect storm of just a weird situation where he makes the save. You can kind of see by his body language, he doesn't know where it is immediately. He didn't kind of hunch over and cover up his pads to identify, yep, I have it, I'm freezing it. It was a little bit awkward. And I think the referee could pick up on that. Sergeev did not truly have that puck frozen. So he didn't get the quick whistle. And because he didn't get the quick whistle, he might have thought that he was about to. And he kind of opened up his pads and turned. And when he opened up his pads and turned, it left the puck exposed. But again, he didn't know where it was. Now, Jack Hughes, you give him credit because there was no whistle. He didn't give up on the play. He kept crashing the net. He was the first one to it. So when Sergeev turned and opened up the pads, the puck was there. He couldn't identify it. Hughes did. Again, it's such a weird play. It's such a fluky goal that I can't really put blame on anything, because you could watch a million hockey games and probably never see something like that again. Only Arsenii knows what happened. I don't know if he was asked about it at all after the game. It's a tough one. So you go down 1-0 in the second period, down 2-0 on a 2-on-1 that Boston scores on. Yep. So you're down 2-0 after 2. And again, a lot of teams could have folded, but they didn't. Came out to get the early goal from DeGraves.
Yep.
And from there, they end up out shooting Boston, I think 18-6 in the third period. they got to their game in the third. What they will lament for sure is that they didn't play their game in the first 2 periods. And in a national semifinal, it's a tough way to play and try to win. So I know that was some of the conversation after too, is like and that's hockey sometimes. You don't have your game in the first couple periods, but then they got to it and they had great chances. They get the one. I really thought they were going to end up tying it. And again, we can go back and look at the first period where Fink has a breakaway early in the game. And I think he missed the net. I don't know if Yegorov got a piece of it, but Fink was trying to shoot high, just went past the shoulder. Fink ended up with a 2-on-1 later in that period as well that Yegorov made a save on. Yegorov also made a shorthanded breakaway save on Dane Dowiak in the second period. So it's not like Penn State didn't have chances. Yegorov, you give him credit because he played a great game too. He and Sergeev went toe-to-toe on a lot of saves. And then even when it was 2-0, Sergeev kept Penn State in it in the second period because there were a lot of times that all of a sudden Boston's getting, a breakaway or 2-on-1s, and he made the saves. So without him, that game probably is worse, and Penn State's not in a position to make that comeback in the third period.
Eric, you answered my follow-up question there. Is that when you see it from your point of view in St. Louis, is that it for Penn State? And you said, no, Boston played a better game overall, and Penn State did get to its game and was actually playing better than Boston. But by the time that happened, it was a little too late there. So, because when I'm watching it, I basically, after that second goal, maybe that's just the pessimism in me, but I didn't feel like the Nittany Lions had the best chance in that. It's the Frozen Four, right? There's not a lot of margin for error, and you made the grave mistake. However, we say, whose fault it was or this and that. You say it's more of a testament to Boston for crashing the goal, keeping up the intensity, making a play on it, and not so much, just a lackluster play there by the defense and by Sergeev in that moment. Eric, just from your experience, briefly, recap it, seeing it, following this team all season. They get to their first ever Frozen Four. You and I felt like this was a good game that Penn State could have won. Again, if they play this game maybe 10 more times, who knows? Penn State win 5 or 6 of them, very, very much so. Those two teams were evenly matched based on the way that you said it. But just overall, first Frozen Four appearance, the precedent is set. Now let's get back there and win and ultimately hoist a trophy.
Yeah, because again, you do not get there on a fluke. It's too hard. It's too hard to make the tournament. Only 16 teams do. Mm-hmm. Then you have to win 2 games against some of the best teams in the country to even get to the Frozen Four.
Yeah.
So you don't get there on a fluke. And it was a winnable game. Yeah. But they did a lot of good things. Some things not so well. Didn't quite have their game in the first 2 periods. But, the nation's number 4 power play in Boston had 2 power plays. Penn State killed it. On the other end, Penn State didn't capitalize on its power play opportunities. Special teams are big in games like that. Sergeev was great. They started really playing well in the third period when they got the one. Thought the second one was going to happen, and ultimately it didn't. Even then, when they had the extra attacker out there late, the 6-on-5, still got some shots on Yegorov. He really did play well. He earned that win for Boston. So it's hockey. Like I've said, I think a few times, you can play a great game and lose. You can play not so great of a game and win. That's the sport. It's kind of crazy in that sense. So just to get there, I know it's still tough. The sting of losing is hard, but to get there means so much. The first time, putting the program on that map now that, hey, Penn State has gotten to a Frozen Four. They're geared up to try to get back there next year. It puts and even some of the things that happened here in the second half, all the viral moments on SportsCenter, on Barstool, Spittin' Chicklets, Guy doing interviews, top 10 plays, the goal in Allentown by DeMarsico. The hockey world and the sports world in general now knows Penn State hockey because of those moments. And that is just huge to be in the conversation.
The brand builder.
Yeah, it really is. And, the more people talking about you, the better it is. So, and also just to get there, it really gives legitimacy to what Guy and the coaching staff have built and what those former players, the alumni, did to get the program to this point to build that foundation. I know Guy gives them so much credit that those first few years when Penn State was a D1 team and playing in the Big Ten, where recruits told them, hey, I love what you got going on. I love the facilities. I love Penn State, but I don't want to lose and get my butt kicked for 4 years. Because the Big Ten is so good. But they got players that said, no, forget about that. I don't care. I'm coming to Penn State. We're going to win hockey games. And they did. And they upset teams. And then all of a sudden they're winning games in the Big Ten tournament. Now they win a Big Ten championship, then a regular season championship. Their first NCAA tournament game, a 10-3 win against Union. Like, those things don't just happen. And what the staff has built is unbelievable. Couldn't be happier for them to get rewarded for that moment, to get to a Frozen Four. And now it's about building to try to get to the next one.
He is Eric Ohlson, Penn State men's hockey color commentator for their radio and digital broadcast. Also fills in play-by-play as well. So he was on the play-by-play call for that Frozen Four. Eric, what a great season. Thank you so much for all these incredible conversations from the start. We said this team was an NCAA tournament team. Little did we know that they could max out and peak into a Frozen Four team. But now we are all bought in at this point in time with what they have right at this present moment here in mid-April. Our conversations are only going to get more interesting from here on out. So, Eric, thank you so much for the time for the entirety of the season, but also this moment right here. Appreciate every piece of analysis, insight that you've offered here on Locked On Nittany Lions. Thank you.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Yeah, you wish it ended differently, but still just an unbelievable run and so many great moments. Congrats to Western Michigan, their first time winning the national championship. Would have been cool to see 2 first-timers in the national championship, but sometimes that's hockey and doesn't quite go your way. But so much, again, to be excited about with this team coming up in the future.
And thank you to all of you for checking out this edition of Locked On Nittany Lions. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments section. And if you are new to the show, subscribe to the YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts to stay up to date with not only Penn State football, basketball, wrestling, Penn State men's hockey as well, here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And again, thank you so much for making Locked On Nittany Lions your first listen and watch every single day. Now, for your second listen and watch, you got to check out Locked On NFL Draft with hosts Damian Parson and Keith Sanchez. It's draft season. NFL Draft is almost here, and they got you covered as your favorite collegiate players, your favorite former Penn State Nittany Lions. Move on to the next level. Get the latest draft rankings, the latest rumors, the latest analysis, the latest news every single day. You can find Locked On NFL Draft available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts, and it's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day.